Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. What if the enemy you thought you defeated years ago came back, not just for revenge, but to destroy your entire legacy from the inside out? Genoa City was finally starting to breathe again after a year of non-stop chaos, when a single name began echoing through the halls of Newman Enterprises like a ghost from the past. Matt Clark, and the moment the name resurfaced, everything shifted. Victor Newman, the titan who built his empire on intimidation and flawless strategy, immediately sensed danger. This wasn't a random comeback. This wasn't about money or corporate power. This was personal. Matt returned with a vendetta, and he came armed with patience, psychological warfare, and a deep understanding of the Newman family's most vulnerable pressure points, especially Nick Newman. What started as quiet sabotage escalated into public confrontation, and then into something far more explosive, late night warehouse showdown that ended with a gunshot and Matt Clark bleeding on the floor. Now the city is watching, the media is circling, and the mighty Newman dynasty is facing something it hasn't in years: true vulnerability. Let's unpack how this powder keg was lit. Because none of this happened overnight. Matt Clark's return wasn't loud at first. There were no grand announcements, no dramatic entrances, just whispers. Subtle disruptions, financial inconsistencies that didn't make sense, anonymous messages that dredged up old memories the Newman family would have preferred to keep buried. It was like someone was carefully tapping on every crack in the foundation of Newman Enterprises, testing which one would split first. Victor Newman felt it immediately. He's built his life on reading threads before they materialize, and his instincts told him this had Matt's fingerprints all over it. Years ago, Matt had proven himself to be more than just another rival. He was methodical, observant, and dangerously patient. He didn't just attack businesses, he studied families. He understood dynamics, he knew where resentment lived and where insecurity launched. And that's where Nick came in. Nick Newman has always lived in the long shadow of his father. No matter how successful he becomes, there always that lingering feeling that he's falling short of Victor's impossible standards. Add to that years of emotional baggage, betrayals, and internal battles, and you have got a man who's strong on the outside but quietly conflicted underneath. Matt saw that vulnerability like a spotlight in the dark. The sabotage wasn't random, it was surgical. Small financial disruptions that made Newman Enterprises bleed slowly rather than hemorrhage. Enough to cause panic, but not enough to prove criminal intent. And while Victor was trying to connect the dots, Victoria Newman was already pushing for war. Fiercely protective of the Newman name, she wanted to strike first and strike hard. Crush Matt before he gained traction, but Victor hesitated. The hesitation alone was telling. He knew revenge done carelessly could expose weaknesses their enemies were waiting to exploit. Then Matt stopped hiding. At a high profile charity gala at the Grand Phoenix, he walked in like he owned the city. Conversations died mid sentence. Heads turned, and when his eyes locked with Victor's across the room, you could practically feel the temperature drop. That silent stare wasn't just a greeting, it was a declaration. He wasn't lurking in shadows anymore. He was declaring open season. The real bombshell, though, came when Matt approached Nick privately. He offered him something that struck at the core of Nick's lifelong frustration: independence, a fresh start, a new venture, discreetly funded, completely separate from Newman Enterprises. No more living under Victor's thumb, no more fighting for approval. For a split second, Nick considered it, and that hesitation, that was all Matt needed. Even though Nick ultimately saw the trap and rejected the offer, the damage was done. Victoria accused him of being weak for even entertaining it. Victor questioned his loyalty in that cold, calculating way only he can, and Matt stood back, watching the cracks spread wider. Then came the confrontation that changed everything. Victor arranged a meeting at a secluded warehouse. Classic Victor, private, controlled. He intended to intimidate Matt into leaving Genoa City for good. But the meeting turned volatile fast. Words become weapons. Matt went straight for the jugular, accusing Victor of being a tyrant not just in business, but as a father. He taunted him about Nick's insecurities, about Victoria's hardened edges, about the emotional collateral damage left in the wake of Victor's ambition. Victor's temper flared, and in the chaos of the argument, during a physical struggle, a gun discharged. The sound shattered the night. When the dust settled, Matt Clark was on the ground bleeding. Victor stood frozen, unreadable as ever. As sirens wailed in the distance, the details were murky. Who grabbed the weapon first? Who pulled the trigger? Was it self-defense? Was it a setup? By morning, the story has exploded across Genoa City. Media outlets painted a ruthless billionaire silencing a rival. Protesters gathered outside Newman Enterprises demanding accountability. The board of directors panicked, terrified of legal repercussions and collapsing stock prices. Victoria went into crisis mode, issuing careful public statements, trying to stabilize investors, but even she couldn't fully contain the fallout. Nick, meanwhile, was spiraling. He replayed every conversation he had had with Matt, every moment of doubt, every hesitation. Had Matt anticipated this violent outcome? Had he engineered events knowing Victor's pride would lead him straight into a trap? And here's where it gets even more unsettling. As investigators dug deeper, inconsistencies began surfacing. Surveillance footage from the warehouse, missing witness accounts, conflicting. Some whispers even suggested a third party might have been present that night. Someone with a vested interest in seeing both Matt and Victor destroyed. Suddenly, the possibility of a larger conspiracy loomed over everything. Was Matt truly acting alone, or was he a pawn in an even bigger game? Nick confronted Victor directly, demanding the full truth about what happened in that warehouse. But Victor, even the strategist, revealed very little. He insisted he would handle it. The phrase, "I will handle it," has defined the Newman family for decades, but this time, Nick pushed back. For the first time, he openly challenged the endless cycle of retaliation and dominance that shaped his upbringing. He questioned whether that war mentality had finally backfired. Even Nikki Newman, usually Victor's fiercest ally, began to show cracks in her certainty. Her fear wasn't just about legal consequences, it was about emotional collapse. The family was fracturing under pressure. Meanwhile, Matt lay in a hospital bed under police guard, hovering between life and death. If he survives, his testimony could either clear Victor or expose secrets capable of dismantling Newman Enterprises from the inside out. If he dies, suspicion could deepen, painting Victor as a man who silences threats permanently. And here's the chilling possibility. What if this was Matt's plan all along? What if his comeback was never about winning, but about detonating a final, irreversible explosion inside the Newman dynasty? The consequences here go far beyond a criminal investigation. This is about power shifting in a city that has always revolved around Victor Newman's dominance. Investors are nervous, allies are uncertain, enemies are watching closely. If trust inside the Newman family continues to erode, that internal fracture could be far more destructive than any courtroom verdict. Revenge has always been the Newman's sharpest weapon. It built their empire, it protected their legacy, but this time, that same weapon might be turning inward. Knicks are awakening, realizing that constant war may have caused them stability as a pivotal shift. Victoria's relentless defense of the empire may not be enough if the emotional foundation crumbles, and Nikki's fear signals that even the strongest supporters see how fragile this moment is. If Matt survives and speaks, the empire could face exposure. If it doesn't, the suspicion could linger indefinitely, poisoning everything. Honestly, this feels like one of the most dangerous turning points the Newman family has ever faced. Not because of treason or scandal, but because of trust. Once trust fractures within a family like this, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. I actually think Matt understood that. He knew Victor's greatest vulnerability wasn't legal, it was emotional. It was the cracks between father and children. And whether Matt planned the gunshot or not, he succeeded in one critical way. He forced the Newmans to confront themselves, their methods, their legacy, their cycle of retaliation. That kind of reckoning is explosive. But here's the big question. Will they evolve, or will they double down and become even more ruthless? So now I have to ask you, did Matt Clark sacrifice himself to finally bring down Victor Newman, or is there an even bigger mastermind pulling strings behind the scenes? And if you were Nick, would you stand by your father or walk away from the Empire altogether? Drop your thoughts in the comments because the storyline is far from over, and every twist feels like it could change everything. If you're loving this deep dives into Genoa City's biggest shakeups, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, when it comes to the Newman dynasty, the calm never lasts for long.